Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 2, Episode 10. It's called The Dauphin. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, this is an episode where Wesley falls in love with someone.
Yep.
This is a romance, teen romance.
Exactly as shite as it sounds.
I'm not going to lie, I had a bit more fun with it than I was expecting to.
Really? I thought it was tedious.
There was a couple of key moments and scenes that did a little bit for me.
Oh, you're going to have to defend this.
Well, I mean, I'll get into it, but it's just a couple of moments. It's not a good episode. Like, for the most part, it is kind of dull. And, you know, Wesley romance pish is what it sounds like. But
yeah,
there's one or two moments of interest. So the Enterprise picks up this princess called Celia, who is the daughter of two sides of a civil war that has been taking place on this planet for like a century or centuries. And it's a planet that doesn't spin, so one side is always night and one side is always light. They don't really go into this too much. It's Data mentions a bunch of this really quickly.
Was it that it doesn't spin? I definitely caught, one side's always day, one's always night, but I wasn't sure if that was just to do with the speed of the rotation and the way and its orbit kind of lining up.
How could it still spin and not have a day-night cycle?
Multiple suns.
Okay, how could there be a nighttime side?
Both the suns are in a similar direction. I don't know. It's on elliptical. I'm making shit up on the fly here.
I don't remember the explanation. From memory, I would just guess that it doesn't spin, which admittedly, I'm not sure how. Like,
that seems more implausible than
what it's a fairly implausible, but it's Star Trek. It's whatever. The planet doesn't spin. I'll accept it. But yeah, so one side is cold and dark, and their society is built around that. The other side is warm and sweaty, so they've built their society around that. And this girl is the product of both sides, so she might be able to bring peace. She's basically been tasked with bringing peace between both sides. We never really go into it all that much. We hear them talk about it on the ship, but we never see the planet. We never see anyone on the planet. We never see evidence that it's going to work or anything. It's purely about just her on the ship, and the fact that young Wesley happens to notice her, and she catches him as well, and they're kind of into each other, and we get a romance that forms out of this. But like I say, there is some little points of interest. You know, Wesley's like being really shit at his job. He's maybe helping Geordi down the engineering deck, and he's like just, hitting the wrong buttons. He's like he's got like a soldering iron out, and he's like beaming the wrong things. And Geordi is like, okay, you're in love. All right, fine. You know what? You're no use to me right now. Go and speak to her. And he's like, oh, how do I speak to her? And it does this cut to Worf just yelling like, and I knew that what this was going to be. This was going to be his dating advice. Like, I knew that's what it was going to be, and sure enough, it was. So that's one point. He gets a point for that cut to Worf screaming.
Okay.
With these mating rituals. And then the second point it gets for is the scene in which Riker demonstrates how to chat up a lady with Guinan, or Guinan, sorry, to Wesley. And he just sits there, like, oh, your eyes are like magical beacons to the soul, and and she's like, oh, maybe you're putting me in too much of a pedestal. You won't be able to reach me. She's like, then I'll learn to fly because you will be the wind beneath my wings. Like, I can't remember the exact lines, but it was just nothing but cheesy nonsense for and it's a good like 30-40 seconds. And Wesley gets less and less interested as it goes, and the ending just puts the cherry on top, where Wesley kind of goes, guys, I don't really think this is my style, and then Guinan just goes, shut up, boy. just start staring at Riker again, like, go on, Riker, go on. I'll be the test dummy for this.
So what you're telling me is the 2 points you liked in this episode are the one where Worf screams at Wesley,
yes,
and the one where Wesley gets told to shut up.
Yes. Well, I also enjoyed when the old lady Anya, the one that's with Celia, she turns into her monster for the first time, like in front of like Worf in the med bay. That made me laugh out loud in a sort of fun, goofy B-movie kind of way.
Sure.
Also, at one point, she transforms into Shelley from Twin Peaks for a scene, and that was really weird and distracting. I'm like, what's going on?
Weird, wasn't it?
Why is Shelley from Twin Peaks here? Why? I mean, I think.
What show is it?
The point of the scene is that she's been another teenage girl, so that Celia will feel more comfortable. But of course, Celia is also a shapeshifter, as we learn throughout the episode. Her true form is nothing like else we've seen.
Yeah.
Even the weird, like, because the first time we see the monster version of Anya, it's like waist high, so it was very Ewok-ish. I was getting some Ewok vibes from this thing.
I'm not going to argue that too hard, I suppose.
Yeah, and then the next time we see it though, when Worf kind of tries to restrain her, it's like 8 foot tall, and Worf's like, oh.
It's Ewoks versus Wookiees, is what you're saying.
Yes, it starts off as an Ewok and turns into a Wookiee. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the gist of what I'm saying. And like Worf kind of respects her, and she's like, "Oh, maybe one day we'll fight alongside each other." He's like, "It'll be an honor." This is at the end of the episode when they're saying goodbyes. And it's like, okay.
Oh, we're at the end of the episode already?
No, I'll just skip it ahead, you prick. So, yeah, I don't know. There was some fun little minutes, and I laughed in a really awkward way at the very end of the episode as well, because when Wesley comes to say goodbye to Celia, he hands her a chocolate mousse because their first date, as it were, when she first gets to come and see him, they go to the cafeteria and they get she's like, she wants something sweet, so he asks for chocolate mousse, and she's like, "Oh, this is delightful," or whatever. At the end of the episode, he hands her this bowl of chocolate mousse and says, "A taste to remember me by." That line made me cringe. A taste to remember me by.
That's terrible. To be honest, though, like 90% of the dialogue that comes out of his mouth in this episode is particularly bad, even by his usual standards.
He takes her to the holodeck and shows her different like planets and shit, and it's very romantic. And he's saying, "Hey, this could be in your future too." And she's feeling miserable because she's basically been destined to always go to this planet and be this mediator and have all these responsibilities, and she doesn't want any of them. And she keeps getting upset, even when he takes her for drinks. Guinan has to like convince him to run after her because she gets really upset at one point because he keeps saying, "Oh, you could just stay in the Enterprise if you want, where I am."
Yeah,
you can ignore all those policies and all those things. All those responsibilities you're meant to go and have. Like you could just ignore all that. He doesn't really do anything interesting.
He's an irresponsible little shit.
Well, that's the weird thing. I think there is something to be said here about her being raised from birth to do this thing where, no, she shouldn't have to do something that someone else decides she's going to be when she's a baby. Like, I fundamentally disagree with that. But the episode does nothing to actually explore that idea. It just...
Here's the thing. I agree with that. But the way it comes across from this character is that, to me, it feels like she doesn't want to do this, but it's like, it's just like a sense of honor, duty, whatever you want to call it, that she feels like she does have to do it. In the same way we see in Star Trek quite a bit. And
if they explored that dilemma with her, it might be interesting.
No, it could be. I'm just saying that's the impression I got, which is why I made that comment.
It's very dark because to me it really leaned heavily on she doesn't want to do it, but Anya's always like, "No, you have to do this."
Yeah. Okay.
Tough kid. You're gonna have to do it.
Yeah.
That's the impression I got, but I mean, it's whatever.
The episode doesn't really do enough to give us much to argue with, does it?
Yeah, they also imply that like they can shapeshift to like really small sizes as well, because at one point she sneaks through the door, bigger under it. We don't see it; we just hear that it happened. But so they use a force field to like keep her in from that point on. But yeah, that's really weird because
the trick.
When we see her final form, because Wesley wants to see it, she's like, "Oh, you wouldn't be able to handle it," and he's like, "No, please. I want to see who you really are." Because he's actually really pissy when he finds out she's a shapeshifter. He gets really pissy, like, because he comes in with the moose in the transporter room. But this is like right after a scene where he kind of like fights with her. He's like, "Oh, was it fun playing a humanoid? Oh, you're not even what you really say you are. You're not a teenage girl. You're not what you said." And he felt like a little shit here. I'm not gonna lie. It was like, wait, she's an alien, and you're upset that she.
I mean, you've just spent all afternoon talking with her, and you quite like her. But yeah, she's a shapeshifter because she's an alien.
Yeah, she's an alien. You're basically angry at her because she has another form that you are unsatisfied with. Like it felt really shitty from Wesley in this scene.
It did a bit, yeah.
It's like finding out someone's secret and just judging them for it in a weird way. It's like, technically she never lied to you about anything, Wesley. She didn't say she wasn't a shapeshifter, which in the context of Trek, like obviously in our world, if someone turned out to be a shapeshifter, it's like, yeah, you need to bring that up. I was never going to ask. But
yeah, but I assume shapeshifting aliens are not maybe while not common, are not clearly that uncommon. We've seen them before.
Yeah. So he's a real little shit. He refuses to like be nice, but then he changes his mind, comes in with a moose, and he sees her final form, which is kind of like a sparkly condom, is how I'd describe it.
It's a good a description as any.
It's a sparkly condom. Oh dear. Yeah, I mean that's basically the episode. There's not really much else going on. There is one moment which I thought could be interesting, where Picard asks Wesley to stay away from her, because he says, "Look, I don't usually ask, my crew members to anything to do with their private lives or relationships, but in this instance, because of the problem with Anya and her being really protective, like I'm going to ask you to stay away from her." And I thought it was interesting because he's not ordering him. He's not giving him an order as a captain. He's asking him to do it.
So there's no obligation.
Yeah. So I like that element to it, and I thought they could maybe have done something more with that, because obviously Anya's like, there's a whole part in the middle of the episode where she goes around the ship and she like questions Geordi about how he's like doing stuff to the engines and the warp drive, and like, should this need maintenance? Are we safe? Is this going to kill us and blow up? And then later on she sees
I
this.
wish they just went, yes, it's going to blow up. Better run.
And then she goes to the med bay, and Pulaski's like working on someone who's got something which is treatable and is like, it's the sort of thing where there's maybe like a 1% chance it won't take any, but like, commonly this is fine and not a big deal. Yeah. And Anya freaks out and is like, "Oh no, this is a contagion. This is a threat to Salita. I must kill this man right now." And this is when she ends up morphing, because Worf comes in to like hold her back, and
she's having none of it.
Yeah. So that was a whole thing. She was kind of annoying. Is my best. Like, yeah. I think I like the idea of this old woman fighter who ends up bonding with Worf. I like the idea of that. Like the final moment with them, I kind of like, but I think the actual execution of the character up until that point was kind of just irritating.
Because she never does anything except be angry at things.
Yeah.
She's angry at Salaya for wanting to do whatever. She says she's angry at Geordi for is this dangerous? Everything. She's so overprotective that she's angry about everything, and it's just irritating.
She's very one note. There's not really much to her beyond that. And at the end, she's like, "Oh, I'm not coming with you. Like, I'm going off to like another moon to like basically be retired because my duty's fulfilled by keeping you safe until you're this age and you're here at the planet." Again, maybe that's something we could have explored a little bit more. Like this idea that she had this duty, but this is the end of her journey. This is like where she gets this clock out and just, do whatever she wants to do now with her.
Is she still going to be crazy overprotective, even though it's not her responsibility anymore?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe this idea that she has, because she's kind of her mother in a weird way. Like, she's her guardian. Yeah. So, like, yeah, I mean, there's so many things that you could take this plot and explore a couple of the ideas and make more of an actual real episode out of it. Instead, it's really just like, how does Wesley talk to a girl and then accept that he can't? Because it ends in this really sort of bitter scene where he's with Guinan, and she has to like give him some advice because he's really like mopey and upset, and he's like, "Oh, I'll never feel this way again," and blah blah blah. And she's like, "Nah, you'll feel love again, but it'll be different every time, and it will happen." And he's like, "Oh, it doesn't really make me feel better." It's like, "Well, it's not supposed to." And then it's really somber, and it cuts to the Enterprise, and then we go to credits.
Honestly, it's my favorite thing about this.
I don't know, Guinan having the hots for Riker, highlight of the episode.
Well, it was amusing enough, yeah.
And a taste to remember me by will be echoed into my nightmares for years to come. So, yeah, it's whatever. And a random Shelley from Twin Peaks, because why not? But it's a forgettable episode. I'm not going to remember any of this in a couple of weeks.
It just came across as really tedious, and I mean, it didn't help that I was a bit ill when I was watching this. Mm-hmm. So this definitely did not perk me up at all. So yeah, that wasn't particularly enjoyable. Yeah, I mean, it sucks coming after the last couple, which we've been on a good run, and then.
That's the thing, though, because we're starting to have some actual great episodes, some actual classics. I don't feel as bad with these ones anymore because it's not this gauntlet of like mediocre.
Well, here's the do you know what? See, this one feels worse for me. Because I'd gotten used to the mediocre, the monotony, just like, it's fine, And then I got actual good episodes. I'm like, oh, that's what this show can be. It can be good.
There's always going to be bad episodes, even in the good seasons.
I know, but but we hadn't had any of the like those last 2 episodes were clearly the best 2 episodes of the show so far. Right, they were head and shoulders above everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming on to this, which was, if not, it's not the worst episode, but thoroughly mediocre and tedious. It feels worse coming off those 2 for the first time in this show.
I chuckled a few times. It wasn't as painful as I was expecting it to be, and that is my semi-positive, middling review.
How very committal of you.
It's a solid 5 out of 10. Something like that.
That's a little generous, but yeah.
It's generous. Okay. Well, next episode we're jumping back up in the ratings on IMDb's average, so that's good.
That's a good sign.
It's called Contagion, and we have the description as follows: encountering the superior technology of a very, very ancient race creates a system malfunction for a doomed Federation starship. Wait, what? Hold on. I need to leave and read this properly. Encountering a superior technology of a very ancient race creates a system malfunctions for a doomed Federation starship for the Enterprise.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either. So I'm not just mad here. I'm not just misreading it. There's something wrong here. Okay.
No, that didn't sound. Assuming you didn't just misread out loud what it actually said.
It sounds like there was a doomed Federation starship. The Enterprise is now in danger of having the same problem, but so is, this is the final part that I've not read yet.
Okay. No, I see it.
Yeah, and so is an eavesdropping Romulan warbird. So we've got a Romulan warbird, we've got the Enterprise, and
no,
could be good.
See, I think it does work. You just didn't leave the right emphasis after the comma. Create system malfunctions for a doomed Federation starship, for the Enterprise, and for an eavesdropper. So it's 3 ships.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, okay, no, that makes a bit more sense. Honestly, I think this is kind of liberal use of the commas. I would not use as many commas as this. But
I think the real problem with that sentence is?
Mm-hmm.
It's the word for the Enterprise. If you get rid of the for, so malfunctions for a doomed Federation starship, the Enterprise, and for an eavesdropping Romulan warbird.
You're right, the extra fours. Yeah, you're right.
It's redundant, and that's what throws the flow off.
It would be a list otherwise, yeah, for the Federation starship, the Enterprise, and an eavesdropping Romulan warbird. Yeah, that'd be way better grammar. Yeah, whoever wrote this on IMDb,
we've fixed it for you.
You're fired. You're fired.
You're fired from voluntarily submitting things to IMDb.
Oh dear. I love the idea as an English professor listening to this, disagreeing with us and going, no, here's why their version's better. Why you two are just growing up with the wrong lessons.
It's very possible.
That's very possible.
But language is an evolving beast, so the fact that the one that we use now sounds more natural means it's actually the correct way.
Sure. And that's why, as far as I'm concerned, the words Satan and Connor are interchangeable. But anyway, that's what's coming up next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation, which we will talk about next week. In fact, apologies, this is a bit later in the week, this episode. At least on Patreon, it is. Obviously next week when it goes public, it might actually be a shorter gap. It'll be the last one that was a bit late. Connor was sick this week, and we went a few days without recording anything. So apologies, but we should be back on track now. So thank you very much for watching or listening. You can, of course, let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. You can subscribe. You can support everything we do by rating the audio podcast on your podcast app. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars, and that lets more people find us. Of course, you can support us financially by going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us for as little as $1 per month, which very soon, early in November, we'll start giving you a bonus already cancelled exclusive. It'll be audio only, but it'll be exclusive already cancelled only for patrons, and amongst other stuff. And we should warn you that the early access is moving to the $5 tier, but the $1 tier is getting a few other things instead.
Like your bonus show.
Like the bonus show, and bonus deleted scenes, as it were, called bonus bits. from things. And it's not that we're cutting out relevant things. This is when we go off topic and talk about nonsense for 10 minutes.
When we tangent a little bit too much, even by our standards.
Yeah, it'll just become a bonus bit for patrons. But yes, so go to Patreon, have a look, see if you fancy any of those things, and want to support everything we do, and keep my cats fed. So, but that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Check out other stuff we have, like the classic Twilight Zone reviews, the horror movie podcast, the sci-fi movie podcast, which are called the Ace and the Screams After Midnight, respectively. I really struggled there for some reason, but go check out all those things. That has been us. So thank you once again. Keep watching Star Trek, guys, and to everyone but Connor, live long and prosper.